At what part of the story? I think to begin, because of I'm really interested in what you went through with the NFL. We're going to cover a lot of ground here today.
I mean, let me tell you, there's a ton to cover. Really, I mean, if you want to go into the brain recovery, the NFL battle,
Yeah,
the
I do. I
work
do.
battle, the cognitive, I mean,
Yeah,
you,
I really would like to do that. I really would, as long as you're willing and it doesn't like make you, oh God, I'm telling it again, right? Okay. Okay, George. So,
that's one benefit. It's not even short-term memory. I tell the same stories over and over and over, and they're always brand new to me.
uh, okay, well, that's your perk. It's
There
always
you go.
fresh. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Okay, so here we go. One, two, three. Quiet moment. Welcome to 22NU Podcast. I'm Anna Salas, your host and also the producer. And today we have a phenomenal guest whose story I think should be made into a full-length feature film. That's my idea for it. But let me introduce you to George Visger. Now, George got into the University of Colorado on a football scholarship, but at the same time, he was majoring in fisheries biology. And then he played in the 1977 Orange Bowl. And he was a 3-year starter at defensive tackle, selected in the sixth round in the 1980 draft, and played with the 49ers for 2 years. That's a major life accomplishment right there. Now, during the 1980 season, George sustained a concussion against the Cowboys. Yet somehow no one stopped him from playing the entire game by clearing his head with smelling salts. Now, let's just take a moment and imagine that you're George, and then early in the following
81.
1981 Super Bowl season, George developed water on the brain, technical term is hydrocephalus, and underwent 3 emergency VP shunt brain surgeries. Ventricle, right? They had to work on your ventricle.
Peripheral peritoneal.
Yeah, and in 8 months, and he was given last rites at age 23. Now, what I'm going to let you pick up with where you were at when you finally could stand up again, take a look around, and recognize where your life had dropped you off and where it was going to pick you up. You want to start there, George?
Absolutely. So the second and third brain surgeries, just 4 months after the Super Bowl, they were 10 hours apart. After my second one, I went back into a coma. The doctor
Ugh.
called my family, said someone should get down here. We're losing them. They did a third brain surgery, moved my shunt again. I have a shunt which goes in my brain. There's a pump back here, and there's a tube goes down to my abdomen. I'm draining spinal fluid as we speak. So after that third one, during which time I was given last rites, I have zero memory to this day for the next 16 to 18 months of my life. I was working construction with my older brother, and he said I showed up on the job after, I was in intensive care for 2 weeks. He said I show up the day after I get out of the hospital. I've got 40 staples pounding in the back of my head. He said,
Mm,
"What are you doing?" I said, "I'm here to work." And this is
mm,
all secondhand. He goes, "You can't work." And I guess I was very explosive, and I would go off on people.
mm-hmm.
Nobody knew that things weren't really functioning. And so it was almost 16, 18 months later. And my oldest brother, Bob, and he's 10 years older. He's my closest friend in the world. And we worked together, we hunted, we fished together. And it was like about a year and a half later, we're working on the job and we're jacking about, work and our next hunting trip coming up. And all of a sudden he looked at me, and I'm the fifth of six kids, and everybody had been married and everyone had kids. And I was the last one, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was known as Uncle George to everybody. I mean, just I had 9 nephews at the time, and so we're working. All of a sudden, Bob, who I affectionately call Gomez because he looks like Gomez on the Adams Family, right? And
Okay.
and he's we're framing, and all of a sudden he looks at me. He says, "Uncle George," and I go, Yeah, George, what are you talking about? He goes, no, he goes, this is the first time in a year and a half since your last surgery because I feel like I'm really talking to you.
Mm,
Here's what I tell people: when you don't have any memory, you don't know. You don't have. I had no idea. I didn't remember a year and a half because it's just gone. So you don't know what's not there.
mm,
And I said, what are you talking about? And he started going off things. He says, do you remember? And my parents were my heroes, right? And
mm,
he said, do you remember last Thanksgiving at mom's, you were dropping F bombs and you had all three of our sisters crying. And I'm like, what? He goes, you remember this and that? And I'm like, no. And he went
mm.
these things I had done over the last year and a half, totally out of character. And I'll never forget. I looked at him, and now we're in Sacramento at the time. That's where I was living, and we grew up in Stockton, about an hour away in Northern Cal. And so I'm looking. He's up on the roof, rafters framing above me. We're talking, and I just dropped my nail bags. He goes, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going down to Stockton and tell Big Rita I'm back." I called my mom Big Rita. She was like 5'2", little bitty, little tough with nails, little Lebanese gal, I said, I'm going down to tell Big Rita I'm back. He goes, see you in the morning. I drive down there and I walked in the house. I said, hey, Big Rita, I said, you know what? Gomez just told me what's been going on last year and a half. I said, I have no idea. I'm sorry. She goes, oh, honey, I put it in God's hands. We knew it would work out. And that's the way I've lived.
Mm-hmm.
So then my next memory are hospital bills coming in.
Oh my gosh.
Now, I was never cut. I was never officially released. That second season, or it would have been my third season when I had no memory, I just didn't even go back. I mean, I just didn't go back. So I had no idea even playing ball, I guess. So here it is, a year and a half later, I start getting these hospital bills, and I'd write on them. Even with my horrible memory, I still remember their address. I'd write, please bill San Francisco 49ers, 711 Nevada Street, Redwood City. Okay. Week and a half later, I'd get them back from the 49ers. All they'd write was, you owe this amount and circle the total.
Oh my gosh.
Looking me with the last two brain surgeries, 2 weeks of intensive care at Stanford Hospital. I'm going, what? I fought creditors for years. Now, keep in mind, I made all of my second year salary, which, the average salary then was like 72,000. I made 65,000. That was pretty good money.
Mm-hmm.
People have asked me, what'd you do with all your money? And I go, the $106,000 I made in 2 seasons, which included playoff money and Super Bowl money. I go, let's see, I lived through multiple brain surgeries and I bounced at nights and I worked construction during the day. So now I'm in this legal battle, tototally mind-boggling to me. I'm like,
How could this be happening? How could this be happening, right? Yeah.
Where's my team? They pound in your head from the day you put pads on. There was no I in the word team. We're this together, and all of a sudden I'm thrown to the wolves. And I would have creditors sometimes literally call me, and I'm trying to get an attorney. Well, I'm 24 years old now at the time. I'm not sure what the heck to do, 25. And so I'd get calls from creditors. Yeah, is this George Visger? Yes. This is CWX collection agency. You have 14 days to pay this bill. And I'm going, listen, we're trying to do that. They go, we don't care. 14 days to pay. And then they're going, one said, we see you own a 1982 Ford pickup. Okay, now this is like 84 or so. Said, if I freaking see anyone on my truck, I said, I'll shoot you. I mean, that's how angry I was,
Yeah.
And he goes, well, Mr. Visger, he goes, you'll go to jail. And I said, throw my sorry butt in jail. I said, you'll never get your money. And I hung up. And my brother's right there. They'd called on his cell phone. He didn't even have a cell phone, And he goes, we need to break. And so we would go, my brother's been my greatest sounding board. We shut down the job. We go grab a cup of coffee. I'm just like, I'm livid. I'm going, what the hell? So in 1984, 85, unbeknownst to me, I became the very first NFL player to ever won a work comp case. And it came down to 3 judges ruling on it because the 49ers were saying it was a congenital injury he was born with.
No, right.
I played football 12 years, 2 years in the NFL, but it didn't show up until against the Cowboys.
Got a concussion playing the game. Hey.
And that weekend, I didn't remember that game nor playing the Rams the following week, the year earlier. And the trainers and doctors laughingly told me that following Super Bowl or season or later on in the season, they said, yeah, you went through 15 or 20 smelling salts during the game. You'd come off sideways, we'd give you a couple, clear your head, go back in. It was a joke. I never missed a play. I never missed a practice. And then months later, I developed hydrocephalus and having brain surgery. So when I won my case in 84 or 5, I believe, they offered me $35,000. And I told them where to put it very politely. I said, I want what every injured employee has earned. I want my past medical paid. And thank you, God, I had the foresight. I said, I want to leave my future medical open because I've had 6 more brain surgeries since then and 2 more knees. I had knee surgery my last year playing too. And I said, I can no longer function as an employee of the 49ers, not a player. I said, I was an employee. I can no longer function in my capacity as an employee of the 49ers. They are obliged by law to retrain me in a field of work where I make, quote unquote, a comparable amount of money. Now, I had 4 years of biology I studied at Colorado. I said, all I want to do is go back to school. Let me finish my biology degree. I said, I'll be done with you creeps. So there was a big discussion, and they agreed. And so I went back to school at Sacramento State University in 86. Had 4 more semesters of chemistry, 2 of physics, 2 of pre-calc left. In one 10-month period, I have 5 more emergency brain surgeries.
Oh my gosh.
Several grand mal seizures, a 55-minute seizure sitting in organic chemistry. The 3rd time I was in it, I'm out of the hospital 25 hours post-surgery. I'm back in class the next day. I'm not going to drop out. 40 staples in the back of my head, monster seizure. I developed all kinds of issues. I couldn't even remember where I parked my truck. If I didn't write, I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these things going back 40
Sure.
Every hour of my life, every phone call. And if I didn't write down where I parked, sometimes at the end of the 1 class, 2 classes, I would have to walk up and down every row on the west side of school, the east side of school, that I'm looking for my truck. Zero memory. And I kept my head down and I ground it out. I would spend 50, 60 plus hours a week in the library. I learned if I went home to try to study, with my mind, I can't.
Couldn't focus. Right.
No, I would be studying and I'd see like a magazine on the floor I wanted to read, and I'm thinking about food in the refrigerator, and I would have to go to the library, the very far corner little cubicle where nobody would walk by me. I couldn't have a pen on the desk. If I'm sitting there, my mind is thinking I'm studying some big chemistry equation, and my mind's thinking, okay, the pen's facing away, it's blue, you know what I mean? There's a cap. I mean, I can't get rid of, filter things out. So I kept my head down. I pounded through it 5 more years, and I graduated in 1990 at age 32 with a Bachelor of Science in Biological Conservation. And I started my second dream as a child. My first was to be the greatest NFL player to ever lived. My second, I want to be a biologist. I was 32 years old. I finished my biology degree.
That is so remarkable that you were able to find an adaptation that could let you get through that coursework and succeed. That in itself is its own book.
Well, God has had his hands on me too.
Yeah.
I mean, so many times I could have. And then, so I graduated in 90, went to work as a wildlife biologist. That shunt blew out in 1993, had my 9th brain surgery, back to work as a biologist. Then I ended up getting married, I think around 95. Oldest Stephanie was 2 when I met her mom, and she was 4 when we got married. And her dad had left, and I was a biologist. I was on the road 10 days on, 4 days off, So all of a sudden she called me her giant. So all of a sudden her giant was in and out of her life. So Steph started having little problems with me being gone, and work was kind of getting slow. So I took a job, a long-term sub position at Hiram Johnson High School, very tough inner city school. And I was teaching English language learners algebra. At this one school, they have 26 different gang affiliations. I'd never taught, but I'd taken the CBEST test, which let me substitute without a degree, without a credential. So I did that for a semester. Then I'm teaching 2 years of biology, chemistry, environmental studies at Christian Brothers high school in Sacramento, and I coached football, and back into the wildlife stuff. And I was getting more and more vocal about what the NFL was getting away with over the years. Nobody wanted to talk about it.
Exactly.
Guys,
Exactly.
guys will talk about all their knee surgery, but hey, heaven forbid, don't mention brain surgery. And
Right.
the rift in my first marriage, Christine, God bless her, she went through hell with the stuff I was dealing with. She said, "You keep telling everyone you're brain damaged. No one will hire you." I said, "I do have brain damage." I said, "But I just outwork people, flat and plain and simple,
Mhm.
and I've come up with ways to deal with it." And I said, "I'm not ashamed of it. You know,
Right.
I've been jumping up and down. You can go back into the 80s. I was doing articles with CNN, ESPN,
Hmm.
what the NFL got away with, and then I went back to doing the wildlife work. And then in 2003, I started my own environmental consulting business. But as I got more and more involved, and I started doing talks all over the country, motivational goal setting talks. One of my talks is titled Using Adversity to Reach Your Goals.
Right.
And every time I got knocked down with a brain surgery, a seizure, whatever, to me, it was just like I had a furnace in my stomach and it was a piece of wood, and I'd throw it on it. It would just give me more strength to just study even harder, work even harder, instead of going, "Oh man, here's my fourth brain surgery in 6." It was like, "All right, bring it on." And so that's always been my motto. And I learned to use adversity to reach it.
Hmm.
It powers me. And so then I started doing more and more talks and more and more talks. ESPN, NPR, CNN, they've all done stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then finally in about 2010, but my memory was getting worse and worse and worse. And I was struggling more and more and more. I started the Visger group, Traumatic Brain Injury Consulting, in 2010. And right shortly after that, my environmental consulting business, the economy imploded. I had to let everybody
Yeah.
go. I would do big projects and forget to bill them, double and triple bill. I mean, we ended up losing the house. My kids' dream home, they called it. We lost our home. Christine, the kids moved in with her mom an hour away in Sacramento, slept on floors and air beds, and for years. Now I finally, after multiple battles, I finally get in battles with the travelers. I get approved to go see Dr. Amen, and I go down for a 3-day neurocog evaluation. He recommends, God, another one of these blessings. He recommended hyperbaric oxygen treatments for me.
Mhm.
I started on HBOT, and after every 40 treatments, I would fly down to Amen's clinic and undergo another 7-hour neurocog evaluation. And after my 160th treatment, my neurocog memory scores had improved 14.3%, and I'd quit they had me on 4 dementia medicines, anti-seizure pills, and sleeping
Oh
pills.
my gosh.
And I'd quit all my dementia meds, and my memory was improving. I was late. I'm 67 now, and I'm rolling better than I did 25 years ago.
Well, I want to talk about the perspective that I have listening to your story and being a holistic practitioner, and
Mm-hmm.
also being a person. I have a very unique perspective on what I call quantum healing
Mm-hmm.
and the link between quantum healing, DNA, your origin family, and spirituality. Some people call it spirituality. This story of yours is such a dynamic intersection of those attributes. And I think it's so interesting because I've overcome some things in my life, but I was completely aware I did not have memory loss,
Right, right,
which is a really, really big filter.
right.
And what I'm picking up as I'm listening to you, you can dismiss it immediately, but I feel almost as if during that time there were two Georges. And there was the George who was holding your physical body together, holding the information about who you were as a person, holding the capacity for your body to endure these multiple surgeries and come through and still function and go to work and go to school and get your degrees and teach. I'm really feeling it's almost as if you had a twin.
And the other one was a warrior.
Yes.
And my wife, Jennifer, who's a music teacher and songwriter and musician, she wrote a song for me that talk about will be in if a documentary, and we're working more publishers, also a documentary film producer
Uh-huh.
kind of. But the song she wrote for me is titled "Warrior, Drop Your Sword," because for decades I used to say I am so sick, tired of fighting. Every time
Tired.
I go to get a prescription, oh, they're going to pay to charge me. No, and I have to go through phone calls, attorneys, blah blah. Every time I try to go see a doctor, just a constant battle. I just want to drop my sword and live my life.
Yeah, I really feel that. I feel that so strongly that there were two of you.
Oh, so and you saw my book, Facing
Yeah.
Giants. I
Yeah.
mean, the two giants, the $19 billion NFL, the
Yes.
$6 billion travelers, and hydrocephalus. Those are the three giants I had to slay. And so it's been a battle. So there's been two people. I was a very, very ferocious ball player, but I was always I was a good guy growing up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Student. I was raised. My folks were just salt of the earth, raised us with integrity, character, put in God's hands, bust your tail, don't expect anything to be given to you.
Yes.
And that's the way we were raised. Yeah, no, I knew no other way. Thank you, Big Rita and Big Jack, my folks. You know what I mean?
This is so interesting because I could almost feel in your physical, emotional, mental, what I call a person. Sometimes they're always a person, but they're also an organization of information.
Oh yeah.
And I'm picking up on the very, very powerful organization of information that you are as a whole being that was like, we're staying, we're going to win,
Yep.
we're going to keep going, we're going to keep fighting. And so I'm really feeling almost like two timelines. And I think it's great that your wife wrote the song about the warrior.
Yep.
It's perfect.
My,
Perfect.
my mantra when I do my talks around is this is my business model: educate, uh, uh, encourage, and empower. The three E's. So
Yeah.
I educate traumatic brain injury survivors. I encourage them. Hey, you know what? Never say never. They have counted me out so many times over the years. Never say never. And I empower them. You know what? Here's what you need to do. You go in to see a doctor, they tell you take all these drugs, study them. Go in with
Right.
questions. Why am I taking this garbage? Why not this? What you know what? And then you put them on the. I'm like you. My great success from recovery, hyperbarics. Dr. Barry Sears, another angel, came in my life out of the blue, read about me, started ship. He has Medwell Health, natural, omega.
Mhm.
He started shipping me gallons of his omegas free. And I'm like, Barry, I don't even know. He goes, I just want to see you get better.
Right. Exactly.
I was taking 16 to 18 grams a day of purified, not the crummy stuff, omegas, natural antioxidants, cranberry juices, blueberry juices. I started working my brain like a muscle, doing memory games and puzzles, started meditating. My wife and I, Jennifer, start every day off. We read our scripture. And gratitude is huge.
Gratitude is huge.
You look around and everybody has a cross to bear, but look
Yeah.
around. You'll see a lot of people that have a bigger cross than yours. And so I learned, it was amazing. One of the most defining moments of my life when I was 20, I had just turned 23 in intensive care on my first brain surgery. I'm laying there the first 4 days when they put the shunt. I couldn't even have a pillow, couldn't lift my head up, I just had knee surgery just few weeks earlier. I'm laying there feeling sorry for myself. And the first day they let me out of bed. Now, keep in mind, I'm on the neurosurgery ward at Stanford, and a lot of people don't go home from there.
Correct.
First day I got out of my bed, I shuffled. I made one lap down the hall. I'm looking in this room. Here's a 6-year-old kid with a brain tumor. He's not
Yeah.
gone. Next one. Oh, here's a mother of 4. Car wreck. She's gone. Here's this guy. And by the time I got back to my room, I told myself there isn't a damn thing wrong with you. And that has been my attitude. It's just like, you know what? A bazillion people have it worse than me.
Mm-hmm.
Blessed. I mean, you wouldn't even know talking to me that I'm dealing with anything.
Well, this is what is so interesting, and I'm so glad we're having this conversation because this is really what is the focus of my podcast, is when a human being, and there's no one else like you, but when a human being shows up in life with this amount of totally energetic clarity without the memory, you have energetic clarity. I am George. I am here. I am thankful. I'm just going to keep going and see what happens next. That quality of it's a really, really interesting form of clarity, and it's very, very rare. It's very rare.
Here's another defining point too. So back in 86 and 87, I went back to school in 86, in that 10-month period when I had 5 more brain surgeries. And in between classes, I'm running over to my brother did real high-end custom remodel additions. And I'd put my nail bags on, hustle over to a lecture and physics and then come back over. And it got to where, I mean, sometimes if I didn't write down where my truck was, it's 2 hours me trying to find where I parked. And I'm talking to my brother one day, who again is my closest friend in the world. And I'm just like, God, Gomez, I said, I don't even know who I am.
Right.
I'm living on I'm $199 a week. I'm trying to, and I'll never forget. He looked at me and he said, he told me, till the day you don't know who I am, he goes, you're always George Visger. And
Exactly.
He goes, you're still the same guy until you don't know who I am.
That's so wonderful to have that kind of clarity between the two of you.
Yeah.
Where he knew how to anchor you.
Yep.
How to anchor you emotionally.
Yeah.
How to keep you focused on this is your experience. It's not like anyone else's experience. Let's not judge it. Let's just keep going and let's keep checking in if we recognize each other, because that will be the big sign, right?
That's it.
Extraordinary. It's extraordinary.
I mean, there were times when my brother wrote the introduction for the book. He said there were times when he's holding my hand while I'm having a grand mal seizure. There were times, where he was multiple times the first 8 months after my first brain surgery, he'd get a phone call middle of the night. George is in jail. He'd have to come and bail me out. I wouldn't know how I even got there. 3 different times. George is lost. And then I learned way back in the 80s, I always took someone with me because I was single till I was like mid to late 30s. Always by myself. I would take someone with me to every doctor's appointment. Even though I'm writing notes down, you hear things differently. And
yes.
I would get out of an appointment. Usually it was him for years until I got married. And I'd walk out and say, hey, man, doc said I'm doing good. He'd look at me and he'd go, yeah, he said you're doing good here, here, here. He goes, but he also said here and here. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Because your brain sometimes will take in what it wants to take in.
Absolutely. Everybody's brain does that.
And so I've learned so much. So here's my goal in life.
Uh-huh.
4th quarter of life, I want to use everything I've learned over my 40 some odd years of battling to educate, encourage, and empower people to overcome obstacles, to know that God's in control. God wants us to do good, but you got to do your part. He's not just going to say, okay, here you are, you're a genius, George. And, no, you got to do your part. And I tell folks, I do motivational talks, and I tell them, if you stay on the path, you do everything you're supposed to do, at some point in time in life, you're going to stop and look back on that path. For me, it was 38 years.
Yeah.
And you'll say, thank God that worst point of my life happened, because I would never be standing right here. And now it comes into focus. Now it's worthwhile. Now I understand. But you got to believe. This is where I've lost so many friends to suicide. Some of my former
Yes.
players. They think this
Yes.
is it. This moment is it. You know what? I lost one. I'm not talking just NFL players. This is in my book. June 2nd, a year ago, last June, I'm standing in Silver Creek, Idaho, with one of my Colorado teammates, Brian Rodeo Bo McCabe, my closest. He played linebacker, literally right standing behind me. And part of my
Mhm.
job was to keep the offensive lineman off of him so he could make tackles. And he was my closest hunting and fishing partner. And about, I don't know, we were trying to get the date sorted out. So I called him and he couldn't remember. So I called another one of our teammates. I said, what year was it that Rodeo had his stroke? Because I was there at the dinner with him. I was in Seattle visiting him and our other teammate, Pat Dunn. And Dunn says, oh, it was like 11 years ago. He's sitting across the table. He has a stroke. So here we are 2 years ago. I'm standing out in the stream with him. He has struggles, balance. He can't remember things like me. We're fly fishing. I get a phone call from one of my Pop Warner high school teammates, Mark Davis, who I love to death. He and his twin brother grew up in 17 foster homes in Stockton. Dad murdered mom, kids found
Ugh.
when they were 6. I mean, dad went to prison. Horrible girl. These guys are awesome. I love them to death. I'm standing with my brain damaged college teammate. I get a phone call. It's Mark Davis. Now, back in 1976, when we graduated from high school, he signed my yearbook, all this crazy stuff will kill the blah, blah, and he signed it, love Marky Poo Davis, right? So, the joke, he's writing. So every time I talk to him, hey, Marky Poo, here he is calling me. Got my brain damaged Colorado teammate. Hey, Marky Poo, how you doing? And I hear this strange voice. No, George, this is Sean, his son, whom I'd never met. And I go, yeah? He goes, my dad hasn't been answering the phone the last 2 days. I came over, and he'd been struggling for 4 years he went through cancer, chemo. He goes, this
Mhm.
is all messed up. His son said, I came over to check on him. He killed himself. He's sitting in his chair, his recliner. He has his phone in his hand. I see he's trying to call you.
Oh, yeah.
I had to put that in the book after we were already.
Yeah.
I've lost Jason Harrison, who founded Kuyu, $50 million business. He built it into his last year. I talked him out of suicide 4 years before he blew his brains out in the house with his kids in the house, and he loved his kids.
Let me stop you there. I'm not going to reveal all the details, but someone close to me, a young woman, a young mother, young child, um, had her partner ended up doing just that, but he did it very conscientiously. He did it. And when we had a conversation, one of the things that came to my mind was that he'd been, and they lived in another state, that he'd been a police officer
Wow.
and he'd been injured on the job in a car crash, taking someone in his off duty as a police officer to the hospital. And
Wow.
their car got T-boned and he ended up really being hurt. And so one of the things that I was able to share with her was the men who take oaths to serve, to protect, to be that buddy on the field, whether it's a football field or a war field. There's a certain kind of character that has a deeply, deeply, deeply ingrained sense of oath and duty and integrity, and also from what I've observed, a very powerful commitment to doing no harm except where harm needs to be done.
Exactly.
Right? You reading me here? Got me?
Yep. Yep. That's been me.
Yes, and I'm feeling that in you. And it was so powerful for me to sit with her and say, because she was worried about she didn't do everything she could have done. I'm like, no,
Oh yeah.
I want you to try this on. This man in your life made a duty, had sworn an oath to protect and serve, and to only do something harmful to someone else if it was in the interest of a greater good. This was who he was.
Yep.
And no matter what happened post his trauma, they had a very difficult time.
Yeah.
He kept that oath. And the lights went on when I said to her, it could have been so much worse with what he was going through. He knew that there was a possibility that he might harm you and that he might harm your daughter. And he obeyed his oath to protect and serve. And that's what happened. That's what happened. Does
That
that
is a
make sense to you?
great way to put it, because he knew that he was slipping, and he he probably was already doing things that were out of character that he
Yes.
didn't like and he didn't want to do.
Yes.
You get things short circuiting, you do things,
Yes.
and
Yes.
okay, you know what? I'm going to sacrifice myself.
That's what
So,
happened. And for me to share that perspective helped her
oh, yeah.
because she recognized that I was talking about the man that she knew who
Yeah.
had taken that oath.
Yeah.
And so I think the work that you're doing also opens a space for this kind of conversation because there's a masculinity that these are the people who are our heroes. They are you wearing a firefighter's uniform. They are you wearing a soldier's uniform. They are you with the doctors who went right in there and did what they had to do to bring you out and through. And I think there's a really beautiful opportunity right now where we are right now in time and space
Yeah.
to really look at the stories, the archetypes that we hold around masculinity, and what part of that powerful male warrior serve and protect energy can be straightforward, can be absolutely walking the straight line, always there to help, serve, and protect, and when it can go awry.
Yep. And I tell guys this too. I said, it's not being a pussy
Right.
to ask for help. I got to where, it was always like, no, I'll just power through it. I tried to power it, destroyed my marriage because it was like, hey, just suck it up, just push through it, push through it. My wife, kids, we just got to where I was just so darn intense about stupid things. Now,
Mm-hmm.
by the grace of God, everyone's back together. My ex-wife Christy, and my wife Jennifer, they FaceTime each other and tell
Nice.
each other how much they love each other. And Jennifer thanks Christy for the most beautiful children she has brought into this world. And Christy thanks Jennifer for being the most beautiful, loving second mother to our family.
Beautiful.
It's another one of these miracles, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, but I went through a lot. I went through 19 months of treatment at Center for Neuro Skills. Part of it was sitting in psychological counseling
Yes.
times a week for an hour. Before, years ago, my wife Christy used to say, "You need to go." That's for sissies. You know what? Just power through it, man. I'm not gonna have some shrink tell me I know what I need to do. You know. You know what, guys? We don't always. You know, and sometimes you got to put down the sword. I mean, that's
Yes.
my whole book. It's like when I finally settled my case, the original cover on my book was me with a sword standing way down in an end zone, and there's three giant clouds coming at me with monster faces. One was the travelers, one was hydrocephalus.
Mm.
I got the whole football field ahead of me. I've just got a sword. And then the next page was my sword stuck in the goal line. The stadium's blown open. There's the most beautiful mountains, and I'm an avid hunter, fisherman. Beautiful trout streams and stuff. And Jennifer's with me there now. And it was
Yeah.
like I put the sword down, and she wrote that song, "Warrior, Drop Your Sword." And we're so ingrained as males, not even just ball players, but especially ball players,
Yes.
soldiers,
Yes.
that, man, you got to be a warrior. Pee Wee Pop Warner, coach is going, hey, we're going to war today, guys. We're going to war.
Yes.
You know,
Yes. Yes.
hey, this is war, man. So it's pounded in young males' heads.
Yeah. I just think this is such a great conversation because, well, obviously I'm a woman, but I have a warrior spirit too.
Right.
And I have an oath that I've taken too.
Yeah.
And the way that I express that is different the way that you would express it, but I recognize an oath keeper. I recognize someone who understands that an intrinsic part of their nature is this is how I operate. I will always operate. I'm not going to run. I'm not going to hide. I'm going to face it and plow forward right through it. I'm going to do it in gratitude, and I'm going to do it for people that I don't even know.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So I love this because one of the focuses of my podcast is also culture. And I think what we're tapping into here, George, is a really very, very important piece of culture, human culture.
Exactly.
And excuse me. And so one of the things that I think is interesting here is that we can have literally, I really do feel like you have a twin self. You may have even been a triplet, that there are three.
My sisters would go, oh my gosh, one's a
No, but I mean, but all of that energy coalesced into your body, into your experience.
Yeah.
And that you survived it with such grit and such grace. Now, the other thing I wanted to bring up, and I'd love to know your response to this, is as we were talking, and you're telling me about your families blended and the women putting aside their version of the sword, right? Because women have those swords.
Right, absolutely.
This is making me think of Bruce Willis right now.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with what's happening for him.
He's got Parkinson's, or what do you
He's got frontal lobe dementia.
That's it, yeah. Which I was diagnosed with in 2010.
Right. And they have not been able to find a treatment modality, but he is surrounded by love.
Yep.
And one of the things as we were talking I was remembering how many of Bruce Willis's films where he was the superhero or the super agent or the planet saver and that though it may have seemed like it was just a movie, there may have been some part of his physiology that made that so real in his body that his memory and his brain being able to process information between what's real and what's not real might have evaporated and left him in a place where he could no longer pull information with the clarity and focus that we call just being awake and waking up every morning and seeing yourself in the mirror and kind of like knowing who you are and who your people are and where you live. But this is fascinating to me, and I want to appreciate you for opening this conversation up with, again, from you, so much clarity, the determination, the perseverance, the being able to be adaptable. Hang on a minute. My phone is going to drive me nuts.
No problem.
I can't tell you, my relationship with technology is super vacillating. Okay. Yeah, really, and I've got a handle on it. But I think it's one of those distractions. And I think one of the things that we're seeing with younger people today, and I mean, we may have to have another conversation. I think I want to talk to you generally about something else because if you're not, I know you're mentoring people with your speaking, incredibly important.
Yes.
But
Anything you want to talk, you let me
yeah,
know.
yeah, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
And this is a really clear juncture where I think masculine and feminine, we've got to kind of pull together now. And we need to appreciate how we can be in balance with each other, how we
Yep.
can support each other. But I think for me, the mirroring in your story is I'm seeing this in Bruce Willis's life. He's out of the picture,
Yeah.
except to be someone who is loved right now. That's
Yep.
all he's there for, is for this family, these blended families, to love him
Yep.
for the hero in him, whether it was an imagined film. In order for him to do that, he had to pull from some part of himself that could
Yeah.
feel that potential as a real thing.
And
So,
when that's pulled out from under you, I was 23 and all of a sudden it was done. I'm like,
right.
I was years from even hitting my peak. And everybody looked up to me, my nephews, the family. And all of a sudden I went from being an NFL player to a bouncer at nights for $10 an hour and a laborer for my brother's construction company for $12 an hour. And
Yeah.
free, had no training. And I'm like, this is it.
What? Right.
This is me.
Right.
And so I wasn't happy with that. And that's why I just kept battling. I battled so many different fronts. But I've never accepted defeat. You're going to get defeated, but I never accept it. I learn from it. Make me stronger. Okay, fine. Knock me on my butt. I'm getting up, and you better strap it on because I'm coming 10 times
I
more.
think that's such a great message for this podcast because that fine distinction between I'm not happy, but I'm okay.
Yep.
And I'm going to cash my chips in on the okay side of the table and keep getting and putting one foot forward and allowing, really, there's a beautiful energy of allowing, like your mom and pop did it for you, allowing a space where something else could just happen.
Yep.
And you weren't in control of it. You had choices to make. You had to say yes or no. This is a
Exactly.
very powerful conversation, George, for our young people.
At one point when I was at school, it's actually trying to finish my degree, when all this stuff was going, seizures, again, another angel in my life. I had a counselor, old Sterling Abel. The old bald head. He called himself the old bald headed counselor. He counseled for 40 something years. When
Uh-huh.
he came in, he was getting ready to retire. Now he became known as Papa Sterling to my kids. He was family to me. He would never admit it, but he stayed another 3 more years till I graduated. And Sterling, gosh darn, here, this is what I deal with things. I'm losing my train of thought. Oh, I know what it was. One time with all this stuff going on, I just said, I came into his office one day. I'd been in an organic. I said, Sterling, I can't keep doing this. I said, I just want a degree. I don't even care what it is anymore. I need to get my life back. And he looks in my transcript and he goes, you're 5 units from a liberal arts degree. I go, something else. I mean, I had so many units. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science with 172 units. I'm like 11 units away from 2 separate degrees.
Correct.
And, and so I go, no, something else. And he goes, well, don't ask me how. I was like 12 units from a psychology degree. I go, so he goes, you're 12, whatever it was, 10 units from a social studies degree. And I said, what can I do with it? He goes, teach. I said, okay, I'm a social studies major. So I took like 6 units that semester and I passed them and I came back. I thought, I've never quit anything in my life.
Mm.
Organic one more time. Now after organic, I still had biochem, cell phys. I had all this. I wasn't done yet. I had another year plus. I said, I'm gonna try it one more time. And if I don't get through it, God's telling me you're not meant to be a biologist. And I kept my head down. I powered through organic. Next semester, I powered through biochem. powered through self-physiology, and I finished my degree and reached my second dream was be a wildlife biologist,
Yeah.
But and everyone has a cross to bear. You know what? You're going to get thrown curves, Oh, I know what I was trying to get at. Speaking of curves, it's funny. So years ago, I got inducted into the Stockton Athletic Hall of Fame, right? A big deal, And I was,
Yeah.
and so there was only 6 people go in like every year, every 2 years, and so I get this text from a coach that I played Pop Warner with. I played 3 Little League for, and like 5 championships in like great coach, and he ended up coaching for decades at in Stockton, and was athletic director at St. Mary's. So I get this text from him the day I'm going into the Hall of Fame, and he says, George, he goes, congratulations, Coach John Gustorf is his name in Stockton, California. He says, I'll never forget, you as just a tough nosed, hard hitting, ball player for our West Stockton Bears Pop Warner team, and as he said, because then I played against this great basketball team. I was a horrible basketball player. He goes, as a poor shooting, but very aggressive, center for the St. Bernadette's basketball team. He goes, but my fondest memory, now here's the guy here, I already played through the NFL. Because my fondest memory of you, he says, was watching you on the mound in Little League for our Huskies. Okay, we won like 3 championships in a row. He said,
Mm-hmm.
anyone got a single hit off of you, he said, I would look at Coach Al Anton and we would both go, uh-oh. Now, I didn't lose it. The next 10 guys up, I would be throwing fireballs. I learned to channel my anger.
Right.
Are you kidding me? I would just be firing and strikeouts. He goes, you would strike out the next 6, 8 guys in a row if a guy got a single off of you. He goes, that is my fondest memory of you. I'm like, Little League, all right, But
yes,
just having that drive and I learned that from my parents. When something negative happens, you know what? Turn it around.
Yes.
Turn it around and use it.
Yes. So, I am so with you. We're so on the same page about this. And I'll just share that I had an injury last year, and it's taken me more than a year to recover. And this morning I was finally, after a year, it took me a year to be even able to go to do physical therapy. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
And I would just sort of potter around where I live and take care of one small thing and then another small thing. And then I would figure out my own stretch routine, and I would use everything available to me to just keep my body like we're going to get back to where we need to be. And then the pain was too intense. I knew I wouldn't be able to handle physical therapy.
Yeah.
And then last week I started it, and today was like a wipeout session. It was a wipeout. And I said to them, you're not going to see me next week. I'm going to take a week. I'll continue to do what I've been doing at home for a year because it's been working. But this is so intense. And yet I feel how helpful it is. But the integration time that you need when you're in these periods where you're struggling with something and you have to go day to day to allow the integration to happen.
Yep.
And you allow yourself to find integration without your memory, which is, it's amazing.
I had goals, so I had no choice. I had to come up with ways to. And in football, there's a term, and I use this in my talks, and we give out wristbands sometimes. It's short, choppy steps. Okay, short, choppy steps.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing my talks, and I've had 450 the top neural professionals in the country, big conference, and I'll have everyone stand up when I click on my slide, and I get them in a hip position, toes to instep, about shoulder width apart. I go, stick your butt out, stick your chest out, bend down. I go, now take a big long stride. I can knock you over the finger.
Right.
You want little 8 to 10 inch short, powerful steps. I said, that's how you get back. You get knocked on your butt with a brain surgery. Don't worry about being a truck driver again. Learn to.
Can you get to the toilet?
Yes, exactly. Learn to like yourself. I mean, literally learn to watch. I mean, just everyday little tiny goals, and don't worry about down the line.
Right,
Because if you
right.
don't get these done, that doesn't matter. You remember it. So it's just like head down. And when I was in school, I used to go, okay, all these surgeries, I go, I'm going to stay in the library till I learn these two equations. If it takes 5 hours, good. If it takes 11, I'm here. And I would just crunch it out, head down, and okay, tomorrow, what do I need to do? And just keep focused and just keep pounding through it.
Yeah, that's how I approach every day.
Yeah, and you have to. And God
Yeah.
bless you for doing it, you know.
Well, it makes life interesting.
And you're gonna have days you lose ground. It's like in football.
Sure. Today was one of them. I walked out of there, and the people in the van we were riding together, I had them laughing because I'm just very upfront and authentic. And I was like, oh my God, right? And
Yeah.
so, and yet, I felt very empowered for being able to do what they asked of me to do, and then added my own variations. And they were like, look at her, like what, because I've worked on that because I needed it. I needed it.
Exactly.
So I want to ask you I feel like I'm going to have a nosebleed any minute now. I hope not. If you,
Spontaneous nosebleeds.
yeah, every now and then,
When
not
I
con-
was growing up, I would get them constantly. I had my nose cauterized 4 times when I was like,
maybe I'm picking this up from you because I haven't had a nosebleed in years. But what I want to ask you is you've got my audience, you've got the opportunity, and you've shared some really golden nuggets. And one of the things I want to let everyone know is that George is with his book. Let me find, he's going to donate 50% of the profits to the TBI Recovery Group of Choice,
yep,
nonprofit TBI Recovery Association, California Brain Injury Association, or any athletic group, high school clubs, etc., who posts the link to his book on their website. So
exactly.
I can guarantee you that is something that I will do because this interview will go on my website, and I will make sure that we have the link,
Yep.
and then we can discuss. I'll identify someone where I live where we can make that offering. But I wanted to thank you for that because I think that's part of the integration process
Oh,
is how do I take my experience and not only do I become someone different and hopefully someone better because of this experience, but how do I share?
yeah,
How do I share the
exactly.
gratitude, the connection? How do I do that? So that's a wonderful offering, George. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I do. I feel blessed. I feel God gave me this cross, and I consider it a tiny cross compared to what some people carry.
Ah,
But I mean, I feel He gave this to me to help others. And so that is my mission in life from here on out. It's like, you know what, we're going to do as much as we can to touch as many lives. So many people have blessed me over the years. I mean,
yeah,
in my book, there's a chapter, one of the last chapters titled Angels.
yeah,
These people over the years that stepped forward, amazing.
yeah.
Blue, you know, I mean, there were times when I was sleeping on floors for 2 years at the hyperbaric oxygen clinic. I was sleeping in my truck. My kids were suffering. Never asked for anything. I was living on $1,760 a month on Social Security disability. It was a nightmare. I have the greatest kids in the world. They are just they're the best human beings and people. I'm so proud of them. You know, they hung in there. They never complained. Although we lost our house in 2010,
Hmm.
I mean, they all moved, like I said, an hour away from school where we were living. And my wife time was teaching, and Jack slept on an airbed. Christy slept on the couch. Uh, Amanda or Steph was sleeping with grandma. She had a little 2 bedroom, uh, and they moved in. There was no room for me. I was sleeping wherever I could, and never once complained. Never asked for anything.
Well, this is another interesting thing. I wonder if you would make a comment about when you feel there's an opportunity to recognize that it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
It's okay to ask for what you need. Have you had some enlightenment, some, brand new awareness about that you encourage other people to recognize those moments?
Yeah, you know what? And because typical man, typical ball player, warrior, ethos, you don't ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
In 2010 or 11, I got to remember, and I had my environmental consulting business, and I had 3 other biologists working for me, an office manager. The economy was imploding. I let everyone go. I couldn't remember to bill. Things were just falling apart. And then I'd merged my company. Or no, I'd merged my company with, and then they let me go. And then I started my business. It was a nightmare. Out of the blue, I get this letter from Professor Matt Miller from Cornell. Okay. He teaches aeronautical engineering at Cornell. He was also one of my Colorado teammates in the 70s. He played
Cool.
6 years in the NFL, got a degree in geology, a master's in physics, a PhD in aeronautical engineering. So here it is. He's still teaching. I got a text from him today. We're back. Out of the blue, I get this letter from him. I just lost my job again. He goes, Visk, the boys heard you took a shot. He goes, and he gives me this story. He says, and this is a geeky engineer guy. He's not a biology guy, right? He goes,
Uh-huh.
I guess here at Cornell, we're world famous for honeybee research. And he goes, I guess, and this is literally how he wrote it. He goes, and I guess the way it works, he goes, these worker bees go out of the hive, they get a bunch of this pollen. He goes, this pollen and shit, and they come back. He goes, and they're covered up with this stuff, and their wings are all messed up. He goes, and these drones or whatever meet him at the door, and they bring him in. He goes, and they clean all this crap off of them, and they fix their wings. He goes, and then they feed these guys the most potent honey in the hive.
Right.
They know if the workers die, the hive dies. He goes, the boys heard you took a shot. Here's a check for $9,000.
Oh,
He goes, we started the Bee and Buff Honor Fund. He goes, this is how it works. When guys are doing good, we plunk money into it. He goes, and you don't pay it back. You've already paid your dues. He goes, just get back on your feet. We love you.
that is golden.
Isn't it?
Yes.
I have got, I literally love these. My Buff brothers, they are my brothers. It was, 40? I was 17 years old when I went off to Colorado. It was almost 50 years ago.
The timepiece doesn't matter, though. That's the beautiful energy of this. And I love it that you bring honeybees into it, because I was a beekeeper and I designed hives. Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness, do I love those girls. Totally.
Those workers coming in, the hive dies.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And people have no idea how smart those critters are. They are incredibly smart, and they
tell everyone where the pollen is, and
they can calculate. It's just stunning. I have so much respect for those ladies and for the guys too, because they're all working together. Well, George, this has been, I mean, maybe it's a different kind of conversation for you, but it's perfect for my audience. And I really want to thank you.
I love it. I'm very flexible. When I do my talks, I tell people I can go any direction you want. You want to go scientific, physiology of brain injuries and how to recover. You want to go the psychological stuff. You want to go the whatever you want. But again, I've been blessed that I can even think of these things. And that's just, I'm compelled to use what God's given me to spread it around. So,
well, this has been, because my podcast, what it's about creativity, it's about connection, it's about collaboration, it's about communication, it's about community and co-creativity. So we've hit all of those points.
We checked all those boxes.
Checked them all off. So that's fabulous. I will make sure. Let me just do a quick stop and let me just thank audience. This is George Visger, and you're going to have the link to his book in the show notes and everything else that I can put in there about what he's doing and how you can be in touch with him. And this is where we close for right now. And I want to thank you for listening. And I want to thank George for being here and helping me check off all of my boxes for this 6 carats of connection. I love it.
Thanks for letting me yak, because I'll get going and you got to reel me in. So,
okay.
22 and You podcast is brought to you by Living Lessons Library. And we're located in Philadelphia and would love to have you become a member. Thanks for watching.